I was recently lucky enough to perform at the Big Diamond Comedy Festival, which was co-put on by my dear friend Sam Tallent, a great guy, a great festival. Wrestling, beautiful shows, beautiful people, Big Diamond Comedy Festival. This video is not about the Big Diamond Comedy Festival. No, this video is about the strange town that it's in, Bentonville.
So for heaven's sake, let's see what we can do about aggressive hospitality, about going over and above and beyond.
Bentonville is one of the most interesting places I've ever been. It's in Arkansas. It's in the northwestern corner. I mean, I never went to a small American town 30 years ago, so I don't know. But it did feel like I was living in an episode of the Gilmore Girls. It was tidy, beautiful, city beautiful architecture. It's walkable. I got so many steps. I was cracking 10,000 steps without even really trying. And I've been to small American towns before, and it's, they're not all like Bentonville. You've got homelessness, streetwalkers, chain stores, all the classics. And the biggest thing you have in small American towns is people saying, it didn't used to be like this. It used to be, and then they'll just describe something that is basically Bentonville. Well, it's Bentonville without some of the weirder things that Bentonville has, like the world's first cyclable building. That's what they're calling it, is the world's first cyclable building. I don't know if these people have ever been to a car park, a parking lot. They're pretty cyclable. And then there was the art gallery, which is, I'll talk more about the art gallery later, but it's a very expensive and fancy art gallery. And the key difference, I think, is that in most small American towns, it's not where Walmart started. Bentonville is, and they're very proud. They've got a whole museum about how great Walmart is, and you can talk to a hologram ghost of Sam, the founder of Walmart.
What's your favorite food, Sam?
My favorite pastry is a raspberry rose.
Sam, how do you feel about trade unions?
I'm not sure.
Not really programmed to answer that question.
All right, that's all good. Thank you. When I first got to America, I was very excited to go to Walmart. Everyone here found that really weird. And in some ways, it really lives up to my dream. Where else in the world can you get a roast chook and vaccinated and a tracksuit all within about 6 steps? But there's also transparently just a lot of bad stuff about Walmart. I mean, the people working there don't seem happy. People at Target all seem fine in America. People at Walmart seem just unusually unhappy. This is one of the weird things. There'll be like a store that's almost identical to another store, but I don't know, you go to a Dunkin' Donuts and everyone seems very normative, and then you go to a Starbucks and 3 out of the 4 people working there are trans. Maybe they're putting something in the beans. But Walmart, man, there's something rotten in the core of Walmart, just radiating out. It has no kitschy value. I forget who I heard talking about this. I think it was on a podcast. But they're going, all the other chain stores have some sort of, people will like walk around with a Kmart bag or whatever. Macy's, Nordstrom, Banana Republic, The Gap. They all have some sort of poetic resonance. There's none of that here with Walmart. No one wants to be associated with Walmart outside of, bingo, you guessed it, Bentonville, Arkansas. All right, here's my central Bentonville complaint. All the nice things about Bentonville seem to be things that Walmart has robbed from other parts of the country. Walmart is by necessity a driving place. You have to drive to go to the Walmart. Bentonville, you can walk everywhere. You used to be able to walk everywhere in American towns, so they say. But then these big chain stores perch themselves on the outside of the towns. Now you need to drive there. You can't just walk to the downtown and pick up your groceries. It's something as specific as the lights. People have these lights out front of their houses in Bentonville. Flame. Oil lamps, like you're in a Dickensian novel. Flickering. These lights are beautiful. They're good for the soul. They are the opposite to the lights you are forced to endure in a Walmart with the long, fluorescent, harsh tubes, which I think are designed to help you want to get out of there as soon as you've finished buying your stuff so you don't clog up the Walmart too much. Independent shops are all over Bentonville. One of the loveliest second-hand bookstores I've had the pleasure of going into in America. You've got great cafes in Bentonville. You've got a dog bakery. You've got more mountain biking shops than you can imagine. It's independent, parochial little shops like this with real character and personality that Walmart has spent the last however many years putting out of business. To return to the art gallery again, I will be saying more about the art gallery. The Walmart family has made all this money selling crappy, homogenized art and furnishings to America, and then taken that money and built a beautiful art gallery for the people of Bentonville. You know what I'm getting at? It's like these people have had the business model of ruining other American towns, and then they take all the money and they build the American town that they've destroyed everywhere else just for themselves. I'm not saying they've necessarily done that on purpose. How could you possibly do that on purpose? But that's what has happened. I'm not a sophisticated man. It's not a symphony orchestra going up in this brain. It's an old man playing the spoons. But I'll tell you who is a sophisticated man. My friend Marc Barnes, who is really smart, really great, and also the anti-Walmart. He lives in a small town called Steubenville, Ohio, which has suffered a lot over the last however many decades. And he used to be my neighbor and landlord when I lived there as well. He writes a community newsletter, an excellent magazine he co-edits, New Polity, can't recommend it enough. He runs a local grocery shop. He runs town events. And when I saw Bentonville, the person I most wanted to call and talk to about it was Marc. So I did.
Everyone knows pretty much what the good life is like. And I used to think, because I was ignorant, that what the very wealthy were doing in their malice was going after ends that were unlike ours, that they have these luxurious desires for immense pleasures that are hedonistic at base, and this is why they have an insatiable drive to amass profit, is because they want to operate at this different level. What I keep finding is that actually they're just willing to beat us up to get the same thing we want. So I mean, you think about, like, Jeff Bezos is one of the biggest supporters of Montessori education in America. Yeah. And all of the Silicon Valley, folks, they make sure that their children have education where they're not watching screens all day. But they're making money off of making sure that public school systems are giving screens and having as many screens as possible within their classroom. So it's like they're making poverty more expensive. They're making, like, simplicity more expensive. They're making something like a walkable downtown is not supposed to be a luxury item. It's actually supposed to be cheaper on the whole, because you know what I'm saying, you shouldn't need a Walmart enterprise to build a nice downtown. The point is that by eating walnuts, you have the fuel you need to get there. You don't need gasoline. That should be less, not more. But instead, we live in a world in which to have the peasant thing is too costly for peasant people.
I'm going to upload the full chat that I had with Marc about city structures and God and downtown and cars and Walmart and the spirit and the soul and the Rust Belt. I recommend checking that out, as well as New Polity and everything that Marc is doing. I've got to take a moment before this video is over to talk about the art gallery. Towards the end of my time in Bentonville, I did have a mental snap at the art gallery. Right at the end of the time. I mean, it started off all right. There were a lot of rich, fancy people there. There was a lady playing the harp. One of the things about Bentonville is that if you want to work with Walmart, you move to Bentonville, because then you get to hang out with the family and the key decision makers. And so people from big companies will send, like, their nephew as a representative, have a little sway with the Walmart people, and then the Walmart people reciprocally invite you to these fancy events. It seems like at the fancy art gallery. And it's fancy. I mean, Jasper Johns, Warhol, Rothko, Georgia O'Keeffe. There's almost $2 billion worth of art in there, apparently. And it's all American, and it's all in a very certain American, I don't even know that I have it's a certain very strange view of them. There's almost nothing religious. That's weird in an art gallery, to have almost no religious art whatsoever. And there's also nothing really confronting. There's like one thing of a lady lying down. That was about as confronting as it got. It's all positive. America is beautiful. America is great. But it barely even nods to two of the great intellectual and cultural traditions of the United States milieu, which is extraordinary dissent and Christianity informed by extraordinary dissent. There's a lot of commercialism, there's a lot of egalitarianism, but there's very little transcendence or rage. And what you're left with is just this very expensive, opulent, surface-level, Walmartified collection of art. And if you just lived in Bentonville, I could see that you would think this is a coherent, curatorial expression of what America is, but it doesn't really have the vibe of what the rest of America that I've seen feels like at all. And then this thing happened at the end, and this is where I sort of had my mental snap. So you walk out of the art gallery and you head on down to a forest that they've got there. And you got to pay extra money to go in, and also you can buy yourself a lovely little beer, which is nice. And it's like a light show in the forest. It's the sort of thing I have seen. It's often at festivals. The Adelaide Fringe is always doing stuff like this, that as well as sad little comedy shows and fat burlesque, you'll go down to like a wooded area and they're projecting stuff. And it's just like that. They're playing like Brian Eno style relaxing music, and you just watch shapes, and none of it really means anything. It's just colour and the trees that were there before and some shapes, and then statues that some of them are sort of funny, some of them are sort of odd, and they're lit. And I started getting the feeling that I was stuck inside an old MacBook screensaver. And I thought, well, that's when a computer is at rest. You go into the screensaver. Here I am, a drone of the corporate system at rest with all the other ones, and that's where we are. That's what it looks like. That's as close to transcendence and rest as this mindset can possibly get, is some light colours and some relaxing Brian Eno style music and some shapes that don't really mean anything. That's the closest thing they have to prayer and the soul, and something that reaches beyond is just neon lights and the insistence that you be relaxed while you look at something that is slightly abstract. The sort of dream, the sort of sad dream that doesn't really tap into memory or aspiration or despair. Just being relaxed so that then you can go back to work and keep making money. Keep making money in a way that doesn't really help you or anyone else around. It's just a machine that has to keep on going forever. And that feels like the opposite of what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to... I'm not so pretentious as to know exactly what art is supposed to do. But I know that when I like it and when it feels good, it makes me feel like I'm a part of something bigger, or at least that I can see something bigger. And the sublime, and the terror, and the joy. And this had none of that. But I'll tell you what made me feel just a little bit better was some retail therapy at Walmart. Boy, Walmart in Bentonville is nice. It's one of the best Walmarts I've ever been to. It's so safe. It's such a beautiful community. Not even the spray paint cans are locked up. Can you believe that? I mean, usually they're locking up even innocuous things, and here they're letting you get your hands on literal tools for vandalism. And then what was very nice was to embrace a little nationalism, taking a minute to celebrate all the beautiful Australians who are making it in America.
They filmed that in Australia. It's probably the most successful Australian show of all time. We love Louis. Hugh Jackman, where do you reckon he's from? He's Australian.
Yeah, she's Australian.